When it comes to hiring, don't go searching for the one. Just meet your match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/match. Just go to Indeed.com/match right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/match. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Have you ever covered a carpet stain with a rug, ignored a leaky faucet, pretended your half-painted living room is supposed to look like that? Well, you're not alone. We've all got unfinished home projects. But there's an easier way. Thumbtack is the app that makes it easier to care for your home. Pull out your phone and in just a few taps, search, chat, and book highly rated pros right in your neighborhood. Download Thumbtack and start caring for your home the easier way.
This is the Indy 11 Coaches Show, brought to you by your Central Indiana Ford dealers. Sit back, relax, and enjoy a beverage from 450 North Brewing, the official beverage of the Indy 11 Coaches Show. Now, let's get an inside look at the players, tactics, and opponents with Indy 11 head coach Sean McAuley.
Another episode of the Indy 11 Coaches Show, brought to you by your Central Indiana Ford dealers. Along with Sean McAuley, once again, I'm Ian Gilmore. Thank you for joining us for the fifth time so far this season, recapping the month of June, looking towards the month of July, which is sure to be incredibly exciting if you're an Indy 11 fan. Sean, welcome back. You got some sun lately, been out on the training ground and little vacation with time off?
Yeah, a couple of days away, but more through, I think, with the weather we've been having, standing outside. I'm pleased I'm not running around like the players are, but you seem to catch the sun no matter where you stand.
You've been in the training sessions too. You have been running around with the players a little bit.
You know, I try my best.
Stay young at heart, at least. It's been nice to step outside and not be in 95-degree weather for the first time in a little while. Mm-hmm. So that's been good. The Euros, of course, are on right now, the biggest topic in, I think, world football. And got to take a second for commiserations for Scotland. Just brutal.
Yeah.
I think what was frustrating to me is it was another one, not another one because it was only, the second major tournament in my life, but it was another chance for, I think, a really good chance to get out of the group, and it didn't happen.
I think it's a penalty.
Yes.
That's what everybody would say. Why that's not gone to VAR, I just do not know. And I commiserate with the supporters and the players, and the head coach obviously asked the same question. I don't know why it didn't go to VAR. And it's a shame because looking at yesterday's game, you just know Scotland would have beat Slovakia as well. So then they'd be going on into the next round, and whoever that is, I think could be, who's on their bracket? Is it Holland? So they'd beat them, and then they just meet whoever in the final. So it would have been really nice to see them go through. But
it was that close.
Yeah, it was that close.
Yeah, well, and then you referenced, the hottest thing in football right now. I was talking about Gareth Southgate's tactics. I think everyone has their own opinion, and everyone's opinion is different. But from someone who is a head coach, a manager, any takes from you or opinions on the way he kind of sets the team out?
I mean, whether it's solely him or whether it's the players, not carrying out what he's asking them to do. I just know there was a marked difference for that last 15 minutes of the second half when they were trying to score a goal, when scoring became really the utmost and priority thing that they needed to do. They looked more dangerous and looked, difficult to play against. But, it's a fine margin, really, because, Gareth, by all accounts, was losing his job, and then you get an overhead kick and then another goal 3 minutes later after the break. And they have a chance to go on and win it. And I know Gareth, pretty well in terms of we were together in coaching courses and stuff in the UK back in the day. But I hope he does well, and I hope they go on and prove a lot of the critics wrong, because it's tough for the players and tough for the coach, in that sort of environment. But I hope that they do get the opportunity to prove the critics wrong. They're going to have to play a lot better, but I hope they do it.
Yeah. Well, I think, too, in England especially, and you probably know this way better than I do, but there's just so many voices from left, right, center wanting to make their opinion heard, and that's from pundits to fans to, probably other players in leagues that aren't at the tournament and stuff like that. And just international football is just so hard to win. And so just doing that alone, I think, is enough for plaudits. But I think you do see kind of where fans are getting frustrated. And even as someone who doesn't like watching England succeed necessarily, obviously I'm kind of rooting the other way sometimes. But I think, international football is such a weird and different beast that just succeeding results-wise should be maybe celebrated a little bit more than it is.
I think England's had a history of building players and teams up to automatically knock them down. I think that's the frustration that the players have. But that's gone on for, since time began in the English media. But it shows you just what pressure the players are under, because you've got Jude Bellingham coming out saying he's feeling the pressure, yet he plays for what you could argue is the most pressurised, largest club in the world, and he's just won the European Cup. And he didn't look as though he felt or had any pressure on him during that season that he's had. And then all of a sudden he puts on an England shirt and it really is completely under the microscope. And I think probably what frustrates the players is it is a lot easier, when you coach in Hindsight United, or when you are, sat in your tower up above, and you can easily point out the mistakes, and give solutions that don't really mean that much, because they never get tried out. You hear these things of, why don't we play with, an extra attacker or an extra midfield player? Well, if you do that, there's going to be gaps somewhere else. So I'm sure that Gareth and the players have got everything where they want it to be. And like I said, if they go on and win it, all credit to them.
So when you were in coaching classes together, were you still both playing then?
No.
Was that afterward?
He was the manager at Middlesbrough and I was at Sheffield Wednesday.
Okay.
And then obviously went on immediately after that to go into the England coaching setup in the youth levels.
Okay.
Under 21, and through the youth, and used to come to Sheffield quite often and visit us.
The stuff you're talking about, with kind of the pressure and especially from the media over there, did you feel that a lot when you were in the coaching ranks there? I
think it's more locally. So when I took charge at Sheffield Wednesday for a few times, it was tough. If you get a result or don't get a result, that Monday morning, my kid at that time, my little boy was young, so he had to be dropped off at school and picked up from school, and them runs, if it was my turn to do it because we had a day off from training, you'd come under a bit of scrutiny. So yeah, but
from just like other parents that are dropping their kids off.
Yeah,
too,
we're supporters, genuine supporters wanting to know, and then you get two sides of the coin in a city like Sheffield, because your own supporters want to know, and then the opposition supporters of the rival team want to tell you about what they think as well. So it can become a little bit running the gauntlet sometimes. Yeah,
you're fielding questions and comments from all sides. Okay, I want to jump into the games we played in June. Before we do that, 450 North, our drink of the day. This is another Slushy XL. Today it's double strawberry, acai, and double blackberry, which I know all those things at least a little bit better than the one last time as well. So another shout out to 450 North. It's been awesome to see their deck fully packed for every home game as well. So thank you to them for once again keeping us refreshed today. The first game in June was the 2-1 win on the road in Pittsburgh. Always a difficult place to play. I think I mentioned it the week after. I think somebody had asked John Morrissey on Twitter the last time someone beat Pittsburgh on the road 2 seasons in a row, and he couldn't go more past his records than 2016-17. So it's been at least a while. And this is also against the defending Supporters Shield winners and it was a game where you definitely had to grit things out. Is there a characteristic you feel in a game like that that's most important for a team to have, whether it be like tactical discipline or communication or courage? Is there one thing you can point to, or is it just a culmination?
I think you need luck. That's a characteristic. You do need a little bit of luck. But the grit and determination to hang on to something at the end was fantastic from our players. And we knew we weren't playing well. And we knew we should have done a lot better, especially after the start of the second half, getting a goal early. But to hang on in there and to grind the result, that was really, really pleasing.
Are you a believer of people or teams make their own luck?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
And was that a part of that night?
Yeah, I would have thought so. Yeah, the work rate and effort and commitment you put into it, and don't get me wrong, you need a little bit of luck, but the little bit of pressure that's applied by the defensive unit when they, decide to just go an extra step, even though the guy might get a shot off, that little bit of extra pressure applied by the defensive lads, but it does provide the opponent, a little bit more of a difficult shot than what it would have if we don't move. So yeah, you could call it lucky, you could call it working for your own luck. But I thought the mental strength of when you're coming under pressure to be able to stand strong was really good.
One of the things with Pittsburgh, obviously, is I think Bob Lilly's a name that's known to most in the league. Had you come across him before in your time in MLS at all, or before that?
No, not in the MLS, but in pre-season we played them, and through different conversations, I know Bob's had with other people, so I know of him. I know he's a great coach with a fantastic record, and I knew that the game was going to be tough because everybody says it, and the environment's tough. But we've got a little bit of that ourselves, so we stood up to challenge really well.
Yeah. The next one was another win on the road, another long bus trip, and then in Birmingham, I think was 95 at kickoff. Mm-hmm. Probably hotter being on the turf. I'm sure it felt hotter being there. Yeah. On a Sunday as well, so a whole bunch of things thrown in there. That one, just another one where it took everybody to get it done, especially keeping the clean sheet. And it was the first one in a while, I believe. So, how important was that, 2 weeks in a row to win in different ways and then getting that clean sheet? Yeah,
I mean, it was good. We always knew that the first goal was going to be really important because the environment, how hot it was. And again, we kept a clean sheet, which was brilliant. And Hunter and I remember Callum chucked his body in front of one late on, and which is great. But we won 1-0, but we could have got 2 or 3 goals ourselves. In the second half, we had I don't know what the statistics and expected goals was, but I think we had a few chances where, it could have been more than 1-0. But on reflection, it's probably a fair result, for us not to, because they were pushing at the time to try and get the equaliser, so some of our chances came from them really pushing into positions to try and grab the equaliser. So, but I would say overall, I think we deserve that win.
I don't know about expected goals, but I think expected red cards were higher than what was given out. I could say that a lot more easily than you can. You had a good view of it, but yeah, I think Elliott getting taken out. I think everyone expected something, at least a whistle to get blown.
Yeah. So it was a great performance in terms of, like I said, the result at the end. A 1-0 win away from home is always welcomed. It could have been a little bit more, but I'm pleased that we were able to walk out winners.
I believe that's also last bus trip for a while, because I think Detroit in October is the next one.
Yeah.
You glad those are kind of out of the way?
Yeah, I mean, I can't complain about them kind of because we've got 3 wins out there, 3 long ones. That's just the nature of the league, and you've just got to put it to the back of your mind and just get on with it.
Well, I'm sure you were happy to be back home after that, and you followed up with another 1-0 win, so back-to-back clean sheets. Hunter gets another one, huge PK save, and a couple of big ones as well that earned him Team of the Week and Save of the Week. I'll ask you about him in a second, but you've told me about your strategy as a penalty kick taker. If you're a goalie, what's your strategy as a penalty kick saver?
Save the one you can save.
Which means?
That don't dive, don't guess, the player's still got to put the ball towards the net. It's like a shot. Now, it's a free shot, but you can, spend that extra split second and just go for the one that you think you can save. I see a lot of goalkeepers now coming off the line just diving and then wait until, the ball's gone, he's already in midair to try and make the save. I truly believe that you can make a save. You've got to realise as well, and this is more in a penalty shootout, and, we might face one of these, so it might work out well, it might not. But some players are going to miss the target as well. So just take your time, save the one you can save, and then when you're taking one, just don't change your mind.
Especially with the stutters that guys have started to do, and I think Jorginho kind of made it a bit more mainstream, the little hop beforehand.
Yeah, and I get it. And the reason why they're doing that is to move the goalkeeper. So if the goalkeeper doesn't move, what happens then?
You better have a backup player ready to go in a split second.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I just think that, again, luck sometimes plays a part, but and there's the debate of should you practice penalties, and and then there's the debate, well, how can you practice, because you can never recreate the pressurized situation. I think if you've got good technique, taking one, and good technique, saving one, but I think if you've got good technique, taking one, and you don't change your mind, I think you've got a really good chance of scoring.
And Hunter did there, held it too, which you don't see on penalties very often. So, and he has been in good form recently. We've seen Tega recently get recalled to Portland. You know way more about their situation. Could you tell us about Portland's goalkeeper room and why you think Hunter will be good to stay here for a while?
I think if you look at it, they've got Max Kripo, who's with the national team, and then they've got two what you would call first choice goalkeepers underneath that. So they've got three first choice goalkeepers. Hunter's been within their development system, and he obviously been on MLS contract, but been more part of the development team. And what they see Hunter is developing still, but in a higher standard than what the MLS Next Pro is. And I think he's shown that, and he's done really well. I think what will happen is they could keep him with us to the end of the season, which, we hope for, and that's what the agreement's been, barring any real mishap at their end. And their decision then is going to be, do they let, a first team, one of the first three go? You could either sell one who's an international footballer. You could let one of the others go and maybe get, good trade value for him, knowing that they've got Hunter who's coming up, and they may even, sign Hunter again and loan him again. That's the options. All Hunter's got to keep doing is keep playing well, and he has been playing fantastic. Like I said, the save against San Antonio, it's a game changer, because at that time they were better than us. They had that spell of the game where if they score, they could have kicked on, and fortunately, he saved it, and we didn't kick on. He gave us the kick up wherever we needed it to get better, and we did do. Yeah,
I think he had another in the first half with his leg, I think, when
clean through.
Yeah, guy came through. The one other thing about Portland's is Trey Muse part of theirs as well?
Yeah.
Is he with the first team, or is he primarily playing the two? He is?
Yeah.
So just
Muse, Pantomis, and Max Kripo.
Okay. I got another guy that last year had a great season in our league.
Yeah.
So I think that we've seen Hunter and how good he's been here, and I think that just kind of, shows what he has to compete with and maybe what he's thinking about in his mind.
Yeah. So there's still a long way, not a long way to go, but there's still people in front of him in that position. The unfortunate thing is you can play with two central midfield players, you can play with two strikers, you can play with two people out wide, you can play with three defenders rather than two. In the goal, you've only got one. And, and that's where he's got to just keep his run of form and keep his attitude, which is fantastic, and, keep making saves to be able to eventually, if your time comes and your chance comes, you've got to take it.
And I believe he went back home to Alaska for the first time in a little while over the break, so hopefully he's refreshed and relaxed and ready to go.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Now, the unbeaten streak and the win streak did end at home against Orange County. First time you've been shut out all season. It took nearly 20 games for that to happen. I'll strike on the positives, and if you want to strike on the negatives, you can, but it took nearly 20 games to be shut out all year. You shot up the table like crazy in that stretch, And it was in a time when I don't think if you can really quantify the need that the club had for it at that, just with all the turbulence off the field. So kudos to you and the group for doing those things. I'm sure you've learned a lot about your team during that duration of the run. Is there, I guess, what is the first thing that you think you've learned about them during that time?
The belief that grew from one after the other was really good for us, because I think during the first 6 games, we didn't pick up the points we needed to pick up, and we had a couple of heavy defeats, and I didn't think we were that far away. And it was trying to maintain the balance of getting them to improve, but also getting them to trust in what we were trying to do, because I didn't think we were that far away. And all it did was the run, built that belief. And now we're going to come under, runs again where positive and negative. We've just got to keep a steady hand, knowing what we want to try and achieve towards the end of the season. And that's not changed from the start of the season. It's just that we went through a little bit of a sticky start, and by getting the points back was really good for us. And I think we're probably 1 or 2 points ahead of where we should be if it was a normal season.
I will say on the flip side of that, did you look at were you looking at the table a little bit and being like, oh man, those 3 points because it would have shot us above Charleston, 3 points closer to Louisville, who stumbled as well.
No, you obviously look at the table, and it's a really comfortable thing when you're looking above you and not what's coming below you. So we had the chance, because I think we were second bottom after so many games, to keep looking above and just keep picking teams off. And I did feel as though that Orange County game, we could have picked another one off and got into second. And that wasn't to be, so we'll have to, maintain that, keep looking above and just trying to keep, pick teams off. What we have got now, it's middle stretch of the season, the middle third. We've also got to be wary of the teams that come up, like Rhode Island, Loudoun, who are below us, who, turns into a 6-point game if you get beat. So we're not by no means thinking, we've figured it out and we've cracked it. We still have to go and compete and turn up against the other teams as well.
Yeah. I don't want to stick on this for too long, but you did mention briefly after the game that you kind of the week leading up to Orange County, you kind of smelled that guys were scared of winning. Is that the right? Or kind of scared of, I don't know if that's the right way to say it.
No, I think my thing is, when everybody starts talking about run, people are waiting for it to end.
Yeah.
And it was almost like the pressure of being on a run was getting to be, greater and greater. And for me, it wasn't. And I kept saying to the players, don't worry about it, because it's not a big deal. But obviously they're into social media more than what I am. They're into, the records, and they speak within the league more than what I do. And I really didn't care and I wouldn't be able to tell you right now what the record was. But I think because they're interested in all that sort of stuff, and it started to weigh a little bit heavy on them. And for me it was, don't worry about it, just play the next game. But I felt as though there's a little feeling of, we've got another game, we can win another one, and we can win another one. And it just grew and grew, and it wasn't to be. And I would say that it's the game that we probably should have won the most out of all of them. Like, that run could have ended in Pittsburgh, and we'd have all said, it was fair play, because we didn't really. We deserved to win because of the stuff we did off the ball, and we've had a couple of games like that where we've defended really well, and so the run could have ended way before. Yeah. Like I said, I don't know which games there were, but it could have ended before. And it ended probably on a game where if we'd have scored first, I think we'd run away with it. Where their team was at, and I think if we get an equaliser, we could have gone and got 2 and 3.
Yeah. So can this be a learning moment then for the guys that were feeling that? Because I feel like just experiencing that for the first time. If this is probably the longest run that a lot of guys have been on. So that feeling that you said you kind of smelled. Is that something that they can, experience now, realize that that's not the way to go about things, and just, if there's a run again they come up against, they know that feeling and they know to put it to the side?
I would hope so, and it's not just about the run, it's about like taking each game as it comes. That's my thought.
Regardless of
what's gone off in the past. Take each game as it comes. So hopefully, when we get to the back end of the season and these bigger games start coming up, we don't worry about what's just happened. We just go out and play the game that's in front of us.
Yeah.
So hopefully that, going through that this season and recognising, maybe we played more into it than what we should, we'll do that. If we can look at it and approach every game, especially when you get into the last 4 or 5, when you then start looking at, are we in the playoffs? What position do we finish in the playoffs? Can we finish top? All them sort of questions might be asked. Then we can answer them with, we don't care, we'll just play the game that's in front of us.
Yeah. During the last month, there has been some player movement. Can you first tell us about the thought process of bringing in James Musa from Colorado Springs?
We've been a bit thin in the area of defenders, So, he came available, and it's a really good deal for us, structured financially for us. So it was a no-brainer, really. He covers left centre back, so that covers.
He's left-footed,
He's
right?
left-footed, yeah. But he can also play in the centre, and he can also play in midfield. So he covers quite a few positions for us. And then going back to what we just talked about in terms of experience, he's a very experienced player in this league at the back end of the season where you need, calm, steady heads to get results. He's done that before. And then character-wise, I know him because I worked with him at Minnesota United. So it seemed to all fit. There was a chance we could have got him earlier on in the season, but I didn't think the time was right. Whereas now I think the time is right because, like I said, we've got... we had a couple of injuries, as you know, the lads who went off the field, and Cal's not been playing, so they're starting to get back healthy, but an extra body will be okay for us in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch him play. We've talked already about the trade of Yunus Budati for Romario Williams. I'm sure kind of the primary objective was just to get another double name into the team, Williams,
Yeah.
Ben.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. And we've talked about before, you mentioned Yunus's kind of lack of availability this season, and some other reasons on both sides why you made the move. But could you pull the curtain back a little bit as much as you can and kind of tell us about what the conversations look like during a transaction like that, internally, like with Yunus or maybe with Romario as you try to bring him in?
I think if you can tell the truth, then that's going to be a lot easier for you.
Yeah.
And we spoke to Yunus, and it was that they wanted him. And then they were prepared to offer a really top centre forward for him. So for me, it showed you how much they valued him. And by offering us Romario, it was like, well, they must really want you then. And I think that's what caught his eye. Bit disappointed how he reacted. Some of the lads told me, but again, business decision, football decision. He was available for, I think, less than 50% of the games. I think he played less than 6 games total minutes wise. So not being available to play is not really good in terms of when you want a full healthy squad. Now I understand Jack Blake's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. We've had Mackie King go out on a long-term injury. We've had Quinny on a long-term injury. I maybe can swallow them a little bit more than missing a game, back for a game, out for a game, missing a game, back for a game, 45 minutes here, injured, then back on Monday. That's something that me personally, I'm happy to make a decision on the club's behalf and then explain that to the club and say this is the reason why.
Yeah, I think totally fair. Romario scored double digits just last year. Hadn't got it going in Hartford yet this season. Two-parter, why do you think that was? And what specific things made you think he can get it going and help us be successful?
I mean, it goes back to, I'll say this about Yunus. Yunus is a really good player, a really good player in this league. It just so happened at the time we'd been on a really good run of form with Ben Mines. So, you know, we knew that Eunice could play no problem in our team. And maybe he just didn't fit in at that moment in time. And I would say on the case of Hartford and Brendan and their staff up there, they maybe thought the same with Romario, that it's just not clicking and not working. And, you know, in order for them to improve their team, they wanted Eunice in, because that's a position of need for them. And Eunice is probably one of the best in the league that they could get in at that time. And they offered us, you know, centre forward. Now, for us, knowing that I can cover that position with Josh O'Brien, I have got an academy kid who I think could go on the field as well. And Dougie Martinez has played that role as a wing back really well last season and offers a real big threat. And then you've got Mackie King, who's coming back, you know, at the back end of the season will be back and available. To get a centre forward like Romario is a really good deal for us. Now all we need to do is get him firing for what Hartford couldn't do. And you know, the way we play, we do create a lot of goal scoring chances for the centre forward. And you know, I'm at big expectations still on Augustine to score goals from now to the end of the season, because he's getting a lot of chances. So now with Augie, Dougie, you know, you've got Seb that can play up there, Elliot Collier, and Romario. It just gives us that. You never want to be going into a game without a recognised centre forward. Yeah,
I do appreciate the transparency too, and I think that's what helps a lot of people, because I know a lot of our fans, obviously for great reason, have emotional connections to players. Mm-hmm. And when they see someone, I'm sure there was a very large percentage that just liked Eunice, mm-hmm. and seeing him, you know, leaving is obviously difficult for them, and you know, they want to know why, and so I know they appreciate that, and I do as well. Tega getting recalled to Portland. They do have Leagues Cup beginning soon, and depth obviously is needed for that when you're playing in two competitions. Is there anything you can tell us about if he might return this season, or how those kind of loans work?
The conversation went there. They want him to return. And there is a chance that he could come back to us at the end of the season. Obviously, they've got the Leagues Cup, and Portland have just sold a really key player for them who came from the bench, who's a similar profile to Tega, a guy called Dairon Asprilla, who's gone to Nacional in Colombia. And I think it's more of knowing that they've got that option of bringing somebody on who is similar to Dairon. Dairon was there when I was coaching there. And Tega would probably fit that mould. And also, I think with him being, I think he's on, maybe on an option year or he's out of contract, they want to have a look at him themselves as well. You know, so they've given him to us. His hand injury really stopped his progress with us. So he'll go back to there and probably get games in their second team, and then be available for the first team for MLS and Leagues Cup. And if it gets to the stage where maybe they've seen what they've needed to see in order to recognise what they could do with him for the following year, they might send him back to us.
As someone you were with MLS teams, obviously, I'm sure you had players out on loan in USL or other leagues. When you're saying they need to look at him for his development, or how important is seeing him in training with that? Like, obviously you can't gauge totally just from watching him in games, but what would you... you don't need to put a percentage on it, but how much can you see just from games compared to seeing him in training every day?
I think it's important. I think what the situation is, and I can't speak to Phil and all their staff, but I know the staff quite well, and you also look at it and go, well, he's not playing for the USL team. And for me, if I was in their shoes, I would probably say, well, his asset value is lowering while he doesn't play in the USL. We had a similar situation with Tani Oluwase in the previous year at Minnesota. If ever he doesn't play, then his asset value goes down. And they maybe thought, that let's get him back, have a look at him to see what we do with him over the next 2 or 3 years even.
He's doing all right now too, isn't he?
Yeah, Tani is, yeah. And that can happen, that they want to just get their own eyes on him in order to make decisions regarding his future at that club. because they couldn't get eyes on him playing for us because he was out injured, and then he didn't get back into the team immediately. I still feel as though he's not 100% fit. But again, it just times it right for them with the Leagues Cup and Dyron leaving. But I've got full respect for Portland and everybody there, because they have done a really good deal for us for loaning Tega and Hunter. And if we get him back, I said to our staff, if we get him back with 5-6 games to go, because I think he's got to be back prior to that time to be part of the playoffs. I think any team in the USL would want Tega Ikoba coming in for the last 5 games of the season. So we'll take him back if need be.
Yeah. Good luck to him while he's away. Coming up, obviously, arguably one of the biggest matches in our club's history. Atlanta is still working with an interim manager, I believe, unless that's... that could change by the time this comes out, by the way. So asterisks on that. Yeah. They had a freak win against Toronto. I'm sure you saw the goal.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything like that, live. I've seen clips of something like that happening. I'm curious, how closely are you monitoring their manager's situation? Google alerts on so you can see who you're going to prepare against, or
Rob Valentina has done a really good job as an interim a couple of times there, so they're obviously going to get a little bit of a boost. I think they got in Carl Robinson from Vancouver with a lot of experience, and I know Carl really well. I watched that game at the weekend, and it was back and forth. Now they've just sold Almeida, I think, for 30 million.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they've sold him to, I think it's a group called Eagle Group, who own Botafogo, Marseille, and Crystal Palace.
Wow.
So they're without 30 million. So if we can, get one of our academy kids, no, it's gonna be a really tough ask for us to go there, because, and you probably fingertips close to a computer, you might be able to get some research. But I think they've got a couple of players in their development squad or in their young DPs who will have cost close to 4 and 5 million. So they've got good players.
Yeah.
What we've got to do is be a good team. And if we can go there and be a good team, and we have a chance to win and get into the semi-final, and that's what we're saying to them.
I know that, obviously, that's the exact sentiment of, I know you're going to be focused on yourself a lot, and just making sure that, we're at our best. But what do you see in their team that makes you believe we can go and beat them?
It depends what team they put out. That's the difficulty that we have scouting. So we've basically done our report from the Charleston game that they played, because we feel as though the team will be set out similar to that. If it's not, then they have a game this midweek, then they play Salt Lake, and then after us they play Montreal, and both of them 2 games are away from home. So they're going to have to manage that game load if they stick with the same team. So for us, it's about recognising what they're good at, and like I said, they've got some really fantastic individuals in the team. But if they go with that second group, then we know that group's not played a lot of football consistently together. It's either in the development squad or the Open Cup, and that's where I want our group to be a better team, a better unit, both defensive and attacking.
Getting to the semi-final would mean what?
It means we're a game away from going to the final. And that's it. Listen, every single cup competition is great at the end, but you have to get through the others to get to the end. So we'll be happy when we get to the end. If that end comes earlier than the final, we'll be really disappointed. But then we might be able to reflect and look back at the end of the season and say, we've done something that's never happened at the club before. Let's try and go a little bit further next time.
Yeah. I asked you the same question at the start of June. Might put you on a little bit of a spot here with July, because I think that a lot of Indy fans would say, you win the quarterfinal, you can lose the rest of the games in July. But a successful month of July in your mind looks like what?
I think if we look at it, if we can get, my maths is not my strong point, but I've always believed that every 4 games, if you can get 7 points, 7 points a month. If we can get 7, if we got 8, then that'd be great. That's 2 wins and 2 draws. But taking each game as it comes, obviously the Open Cup is a completely different competition, different game, but we have to focus on our league as well. And like I said to you earlier, we can't go to Rhode Island knowing that they've won their last 3, I think it is, or last 2 and drew 1, that they're on a bit of momentum, and before you know it, they could be 2 or 3 points behind you. So we're going there to win the game. And we'll do a similar sort of situation that we've done before, where we'll manage people's minutes so that we don't go into the cup game fatigued. And then obviously, whatever happens away from home happens, and you take your points when you get them, and you go for the win, and hopefully you come away with a draw if at worst. We've got to start being more dominant at home, because we've won games at home this season and not been as dominant as what I think we should be. So for us, a good July would be win the 2 home games and pick up points in the others.
Well, hopefully it happens. The city's behind you, and everyone else at the club is as well. Anything else I forgot that we should touch on before we end things?
No. I think that's is all done.
Perfect. Well, I think there will be some people, some fans traveling down to Atlanta that you'll see there. If not, for anybody listening, Watch Party will be at Indy Fringe and the shop at Bottle Works from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. We want you there, celebrating with us, watching the boys in blue from Atlanta trying to get into the semifinal of the U.S. Open Cup. You can also, one of the things we'll have there is a ton of merch. If you're not going to be there in person, go to the merch store online, Indy11shop.com. I don't have the URL down perfect in my mind, but it's close to that. If you search it on Google, you get there. Another thank you to 450 North Brewing for being the official beverage partner of the Indy 11 Coaches Show, which is brought to you by your Central Indiana Ford dealers. We will see you next time right here.
So if the watch party goes until 9, are we shutting it down? Have we got to win in normal time? Or will
That's a good question.
Will it stay open for extra time?
I feel like till game end is probably a better
I just want to make sure that am I under the pressure just in case it goes through extra time?
No, because then if it's a win, it's going past that as well.
Got you.
Okay, so we're not. It's
well into the morning.
3 p.m. till indefinite.
Good.
It is a Tuesday night though, so I'm not sure about well into the morning.
We'll see.
Might have people going back to work the next day.
Yeah.
Or they might be taking it off. Who knows? Either way, we'll see you next time on the Coaches Show.
This is the Indy 11 Coaches Show, brought to you by your Central Indiana Ford dealers. Be sure to like and follow this podcast and check out other great podcasts on the All Indiana Podcast Network. To watch the video version of this podcast, subscribe to the Indy 11 YouTube channel.